Trideva gunavedata pruchyate gunasankhyaane yatha va shrunu chanyapi. Word by word meaning jnanam, knowledge, karma, work, cha, also, karta, worker, cha, also, tridha, of three kinds, eva, certainly, guna bhedata, in terms of different modes of material nature, prochyate, are said, guna sankhyaane, in terms of different modes, yathavat, as they are, shrunu, here, tani, all of them, api, also. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. According to the three different modes of material nature, there are three kinds of knowledge, action, and performer of action. Now hear of them from me. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. In the 14th chapter, the three divisions of the modes of material nature were elaborately described. In that chapter, it was said that the modes of nature is illuminating. The modes of goodness is illuminating, the mode of passion materialistic, and the mode of ignorance conducive to laziness and indolence. All the modes of material nature are binding. They are not source of liberation. Even in the mode of goodness, one is conditioned. Even in the mode of goodness, one is conditioned. In the 17th chapter, the different types of worship by different types of men in different modes of material nature were described. In this verse, the Lord says that He wishes to speak about the different types of knowledge, workers, and work itself according to the three material modes. Om Agyana Timirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namo Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Utapadakammalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakha Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Manchakalpataru Vishtakripa Sindhu Vaivacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nilachal Nivasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhyam Jagannathaya Te Namo. So thank you so much for joining this wonderful Sangha. And what a beautiful words to ponder today on this beautiful Friday. And this is the last chapter where the entire conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita is being made, and there have been speakers who are coming and really trying to give a grand finale to this chapter. And this conclusive chapter is called the conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. So in this verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is saying that there are three modes of material nature, but within this three modes of material nature, there are three things which vary. Essentially, Krishna is saying jnanam, knowledge, karma, work or action. Srila Prabhupada says karma is nothing but work or action in Krishna consciousness. So Krishna is saying jnanam, knowledge, karma, which is work. If you have some knowledge, you'll try to put that into action. And then who is doing the action? Karta. Karta is, in this case, the doer. So Krishna is talking about jnanam, karma, karta. So Krishna is talking about three things, but these three things are driven and varies by the three modes. So you try to put x-axis, in the form of, jnana, knowledge, karma, action, and karta, performer of the action. So put these three things in x-axis and put the modes, the goodness, passion, and ignorance. So you put this in y-axis and you see 9 cells which got created. So we're going to discuss today how the modes of nature, modes of material nature, which are three modes of material nature, can drive different actions, can drive different acquisition of knowledge or knowledge, and how these people are different, how the people who are performing in the mode of goodness, how they're different from the people who are performing in the mode of passion and ignorance. So if you really have to think about this verse, and there are details, and Krishna is taking each of this cell, IJ, if I may, if you have, been through matrix and determinants. So each of this IJ cell is described so beautifully by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in 18.20, 21, 22. So this is a verse where Krishna is digressing into the process of modes and knowledge, action, and performer. That's essentially the topic of today, is how do we do the knowledge acquisition? What is knowledge in the mode of goodness? What is knowledge in the mode of passion? What is knowledge in the mode of ignorance? Knowledge, jnanam. And when the person is indulging in the mode of goodness, what kind of work he does, what kind of work a person does when he is in passion, and when what kind of work gets done when it is in ignorance. And likewise, karta, how does a person who is acting in the mode of goodness, how does he act? A person in the passion, how does it work, act? And in a person in ignorance, how does he act? So this gives a personalized view of the action. So as you can see, karta is nothing but the person or the worker who is doing the work. He's the doer in this example, who is actually performing the karma. So as you can see, Krishna has filled the entire Bhagavad Gita with personalization. It's all about a personalization. And nowadays, with the technology and whatnot, it's all about personalization. Whether you go to any social thing, whether you go to anything for that matter, it's all about person. So we live in a personalized society, and the person who is actually giving us the mercy, who has created this wonderful place where personalization takes place, is nothing but a supreme person. So with that said, so let's dive deep into this wonderful verse. This is a very, very powerful verse. And so as you can see, this entire modes, we're talking about these three modes, are like the three primary colors. So the mode of goodness, the mode of ignorance, and mode of passion is like the primary colors. And whenever you mix two of the primary colors, you get the secondary colors. As you can see, when you mix red and blue, you get magenta, or purple. Some people call it purple. When you mix green and blue, you get this light greenish cyan color. When you mix red and green, you get yellow. So likewise, when you mix the colors in different percentages, 45%, 65%, 55%, this different colors, and you go to Home Depot, you can do it in any different ways, and you can get your living room in one color, drawing room in one color, your temple room in another color. So it's all about putting that spice at different levels to get the best out of it. Likewise, Krishna has filled this beautiful universe with different colors, with different levels of spices. And how we want to spice our life, it all depends on how well we take to Krishna consciousness and add the right spice in our life, so that we have the mode of goodness all throughout, which is exactly what we're aspiring for. So with that, so knowledge is essentially is something you earn by different methods, right? So you typically people go to universities to acquire knowledge. The universities, they teach us different things, which is exactly how our universities were, thousands and hundreds of years ago. And after acquiring knowledge from universities, you perform action, and then the person who performed the action with the right consciousness, with the right knowledge, he does the performance of the action. So he is the doer. So when these knowledge is acquired, so we are human beings, right? The ability of our asking a question defines a human being. Because when we grow up, we pose certain questions. When we go to universities, we pose certain questions. And likewise, our questioning defines a human being. Sometimes when you hear things from a little kid who would be talking to you, there'll be kid, who you'll meet in the temple. It happened to us. We met a kid, and at the time it was in the MVCC. We were taking Lord Jagannath away in the basket after the Sunday program, and we really wanted to let us, do things. But the kid who was observing so closely, was looking, and we wanted to say, why don't you go and have prasad? And now the lordships are sleeping. And the kid, watching the Lord in a very close proximity, says, how can the Lord is sleeping? He doesn't have his eyelids. And how can he close his eyelids to sleep? Lord Jagannath, till that time, the awareness that Lord Jagannath doesn't have eyelids and he doesn't sleep, he takes care of the entire universe, haven't set in. It's essentially, it's not what you know, it's the consciousness. A little kid of that magnitude having so much of knowledge to ask that kind of question is something which is out of the world. So it's all about our ability to ask a conscious question which drives or defines a human being. It's not the universities we go to actually. And 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 most of the time, you think the knowledge comes from universities are supposed to be the universal way of giving knowledge. But nowadays the universities have become a place where people have just parked themselves for 3-4 years so that they can get jobs. That's essentially what university is doing in this time. And what does that job get them? The job gets them an ability to get better food, get a good mate in their life, which can help them sleep peacefully. And by virtue of the money they acquire, that can defend. So that kind of knowledge acquisition, which comes from a university, which is, instead of giving them the right knowledge to ask the right questions when they are human beings, that university is giving them an ability of an animal who is not doing nothing but eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. So we need to think whether this knowledge, what we're acquiring in the universities, our kids are acquiring in the universities, the kids are not learning compassion. The kids are not learning the ability to do um, uh, ask the right question as to why they're here. Then the university education is good for nothing. They may get good degrees, they may get six-figure salaries to start with, but the intent of the salary is to get something good to eat, get a good companion in their life for mating, sleep peacefully without any fear, and then at the time of a problem, some where the money can defend them. So it is nothing but an animalistic way of thinking through. So the right education, when you think about, truly comes from the right consciousness. If the right consciousness is not there, then this education is good for nothing. This is because, see, once upon a time when Srila Prabhupada came in 60s, there was Vietnam War which was happening. And during that time, when people were on the streets, they could be called from any time. They were in constant fear. They were in constant fear that they would be, put into the badge, and they would be identified. And because of that constant fear, they started asking questions to themselves: what are who we are? What are we doing? If at all we go to Vietnam, we would end up, we are fighting for an enemy which is truly not an enemy. It's been created by, different people and the regime and things like that. So because of the fear, Srila Prabhupada's many devotees, many disciples have said that because of the fear, they started asking the right question. Whenever you see, whenever you have fear in your life because you're thinking that something bad is going to happen, that is when you inculcate fear. And then your ability to ask for looking inwards, in trying to ask the right question, chanting some extra rounds because you are in a state of fear, your health is not doing well. So because, and if you see all the goodness which is happening in the world in the form of, some sanskara or this or that, it happens when there is an inherent fear. And because of the fear, the animal leads to eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. But a human being, because of the fear, start asking the right questions. It's our ability to ask the right questions defines a human being. And by virtue of this material education which is given to us, we're totally thinking like an animal as to how to get money and how to fill our pockets with, with money. So this is, when we're talking about knowledge, we have to see what Krishna is telling us by knowledge. What is Krishna saying? That this knowledge is just not getting good education, get good grades, and then eventually get good degree, and then we are very much like the animals. So the real knowledge is not coming from the universities in that sense. The knowledge is truly coming from the disciplic succession of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And if you have that kind of knowledge, like in the morning we are discussing about Kardama Muni and Devahuti's wedding, he was a austere Muni, but he is seeking a like disposition companion as the wife. What does that mean? It means that in order to live peacefully, you don't need money and you need the like disposition. Srila Prabhupada uses the word like disposition. So that knowledge which comes from the Shastras have stood the test of time. And in this age, when that is being defied, then there is dangers in the society. So the right knowledge comes not from the universities the way it is. Earlier, the universities were of all spiritual in nature. They were resorting to the right kind of mix in having the knowledge in the person, so that people, by virtue of their activities, by virtue of their uh, instruction from the teachers, people used to think inwards and they used to recognize who they were. They were asking the right questions. They're, they're, and when they were asking the right questions, they were eventually landing in the form of as right subjects in the kingdom. And in the kingdom, there was no fights. There was um, coherence. There is to be compassion. But as gradually people uh, see, at the time also, if you think about it, in the time of Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, there are subjects in the kingdom. They were also eating meat. So it is not as if at the time the meat eating was not there. So but the but the attitude of a good society is to inculcate education or knowledge in such a way that you ask the right questions. If the person, after having the right sense of education, can still resort to eating things which have born from cruelty, then uh, they may resort to that. There is nothing wrong or right about it. But at the time of their realization, at the right time of the realization, they will go through that sense of cruelty, which they will only understand when it really travels to them through them. So the intent is not as if at that time everybody were in the mode of goodness. There is a lot of people in mode of goodness and less in mode of passion and ignorance. But gradually, with the onset of Kali Yuga, the goodness is reducing, and there is still goodness in this world, in this age of Kali as well. Because of that, this world is surviving, and the intent of the exercise and having a sangha like this is to make sure the golden words from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he's saying, and he's systematically saying it gradually, you will see in 19 after 19th verse, when you go, he is detailing exactly how the knowledge transcends into the three modes and how the behavior is. and so on and so forth. So with that, let's so 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 Krishna mentions in chapter 6, yuktahara viharasya yukta chetasa karmasu yukta swapna buddhaya yoga bhavati dukkha. That means if we stay regulated in our habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work, can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So what is happening is, as the modes is taking over from us, we are falling a victim to these different modes from passion. When you are in passion, you get lust. You have $100, you want to make it $1,000, $1,000, and $10,000, and because of that, you get into a trap of passion, and that mode uh, takes you to a situation when you don't get that $10,000 in this example, you get anger. So you are transcending from passion to ignorance pretty fast. So because you're not learning from this exercise, which is being put new, so the life is a preparation, death is examination. So you're not really learning from the preparation stage of the life. We are slowly falling down, falling down, falling down, and then we to get trapped into ignorance, which is nothing but a manifestation of some form of anger. And then in order to come back from anger to lust to self-control becomes difficult. And so it is a constant tussle, like exactly like those three primary colors we talked about. It's a constant tussle to really you know get into a green zone or something which can make us in the mode of goodness, and we should prevail. But sometimes some meetings doesn't go well, some family challenges happen, and you resort to anger, and so we're constantly traversing between the modes of material nature all the time. And that is where Krishna is mentioning in various different places. It's all about how to regulate our lives and stay in the form of regulation, how our Guru and Sadhu and Shastra have mentioned. It's not as if in this world everybody is following the regulation, but it's for us who have Sumedhasa, who are more intelligent, who on a Friday evening, instead of going somewhere, going on a potluck party here and there, you have decided to stay together, stick together, and spend some time discussing about this transcendental knowledge, which can help us in our life, in our outlook of staying regulated, and how Krishna is mentioning about this beautiful topic. So knowledge and goodness, whenever we try to acquire knowledge in the universities or anywhere, it is revealing truth to us. It is basically giving us that knowledge that uh, that whether you're trying to learn engineering or medicine or accounting, it so you're basically going from unknown to known. In the beginning, you didn't know the chapters, and gradually you're trying to reveal the truth. But by virtue of getting this knowledge, you know, if the knowledge is leading us to an action, and then you totally get yourself immersed in that. But if you think with a mode of goodness of that, for example, let's talk about Newton, for example. Newton, the apple fell from the tree, and Newton thought at that time, the thinking process, till that time many apples have fallen from the tree, but nobody had the thought process to feel why apple came down, why apple didn't go up. And that thought process, even Newton, once he was a scientist, then he became a philosopher, he has agreed that it is because of that current which came in my mind, which is revealed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I could resort to seeing the truth. And because I could resort to seeing the truth, I went deep into the activity of recognizing why the apple fell down, why apple didn't go up. So it's the reveal of the truth is nothing but knowledge and goodness. So let's try to put a darker analogy to that. If at all we end up taking that knowledge of stock market, for example, and then indulge into stock market with maths and high frequency trading and whatnot, it is good as long as you're staying with the confines of regulation. But once the spirit of gambling gets into our mind, then that entire gamut of knowledge will develop grief, which is when you try to get into a mode of passion. And then after you get into grief, then you slowly lose the maths, the whatever beautiful concepts you have learned to put your analytics or models into practice, and then you become totally ignorant about that, and that puts you in darkness. So that is cyclical. That's the reason why, you know, it always starts with a good intent, and people put models into practice. Stock market grows, but eventually, as the greed increases, and they resort to ignorance, and then we get a crash. So it's a cyclical thing. And the more and more we get this knowledge, the transcendental knowledge which Krishna is revealing so beautifully and has been spoken by our beautiful acharyas in a very practical way, we would understand that any of these activities which are done with the right intent is not bad at all. Krishna consciousness is not about going to Himalayas and living in a cave. It's all about doing, facing Maya head on right in front of us, and putting the right practices which will give us that sense of goodness, where we seek the truth, always truth and nothing but the truth. So, so, uh, so as Krishna is saying, what is truly the truth? What should we aspire to do? And our acharyas in Guru Vastaka 8, which you always sing during Mangalarti, says, Yasha prasada bhagavad prasado, yasha prasada nagati kutopi, dhayan suttam tasya yasya tirsandhyam vande gurohi Sri Charanaravindha. So that means by the satisfaction of the spiritual master, when the spiritual master is satisfied, he has given us some element of knowledge. Then when the spiritual master is satisfied, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is satisfied. So we have learned something, and we are applying it, whatever instructions he has given, chanting of rounds, stay regulated, serving him, and we have, and he has not asked us to go to Himalayas anyway. So we are doing our duty and we are doing it with the right consciousness. And when we do that, when the spiritual master is pleased, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, Lord Jagannath, is pleased. And in that sense, our actions are always in constantly thinking about the direction of our spiritual master, and constantly thinking about that, and internalizing that, and meditating and praying for his mercy 3 times a day, as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying, gradually, iteratively, we end up staying connected with Guru Sadhu Sastra. You'll always attend the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavatam discussions. You'll rethink about what your your Gurudev has said, or your aspiring Gurudev has said, and then it will mold you to stay connected to the parampara. This Krishna consciousness is not an end, it's a journey. And as long as we stay connected, be part of the society, we will constantly be alerted like a pacemaker to think that we have to stay within the confines of mode of goodness, mode of goodness, mode of goodness. It will always alert us and it will never take us astray. It may give us an exit in an interstate, but it will get us back into the interstate. So stay connected, and the mode of goodness should always lead us to get the right knowledge, right action based on the knowledge. And at the end of the day, it's the personality which is important. Krishna consciousness is all about personalism, and we are not impersonal. So we'll always be a wonderful person in the minds of Krishna. So with that, I'd like to end here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Question, comments, or realizations, or corrections? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any thoughts? Any comments? Any reflections? So if there is none, we can end here, Prabhu. Take it away.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, very nice class.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, quick question on the modes, 3 modes. I think I heard you were saying that we have to go from anger to lust to self-control, like which implies from mode of ignorance to mode of passion to mode of goodness. So is this a hierarchy, Prabhuji, between, especially I understand mode of goodness out of the 3 is at the highest level, but is there any, a level for passion and ignorance, Prabhuji, relatively?
What happens, Mataji, the way I understand the question is, see, every day, if you think about it, we are constantly traversing the modes. When we get up, for example, it's Brahma Muhurta, you chant your rounds, everything is going fine, you are composed, you're calm and quiet. Then you go to office, you're very good. One meeting goes, second meeting, something unpleasant happens, and you try to sort of boss over, or you get bossed over. So then that tends you to put you into the mode which is more like in the mode of the passion oriented. And then over a period of time, you and one or two meetings doesn't go well, you have that sense of anger. So constantly we are battling the modes, right? And from the level of Krishna consciousness perspective, it's definitely a hierarchy. We should always transcend the modes, because we are in a transcendental society. We should transcend. So from the aspect of Krishna consciousness, there are different levels, but we are constantly battling on our day-to-day life, because our life is not a machine, right? Our life is going through the motions and modes, and we're trying to constantly adjust. And at the time when we stay regulated, when we have uh, a direction from the founder acharyas, or our from Krishna for that matter, then we get aligned. Like, say for example, when we go on the slowest lane, right? So when you go on the slowest lane on interstate, sometimes you'll see that towards the right there are this little bumpers, little bumpers. So when you fall asleep, um, you try to go to the right in an interstate, you'll realize that your car is going on that, in making that noise, and then you wake up and come back. So exactly this sense of regulation, our sense of attachment to a society, is all about staying regulated. Yes, from outside it is hierarchy, but in our day-to-day life, all of us go through the sense or the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, as I mentioned. So, and these bumpers on the right, I don't exactly know what they are called. It has a name. So you fall asleep and you doze off. You go to the right, and then it will make that noise. You'll wake up and come back. So, likewise, the Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra is there to get us back into the alignment, and that's a constant pacemaker and things like that. But yes, to answer your question, it's a hierarchy, but the hierarchy is not a fixed hierarchy when it comes to our daily life. It goes back and forth. Does that answer your question, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Any other comments, questions, reflections? So Krishna consciousness is a science, and Srila Prabhupada has made it so beautiful through his purpose, trying to become Prabhupada conscious. Srila Prabhupada conscious will make us understand little more. And actually, when we all were doing Bhagavad Gita in our childhood, and we were having these small books, we are not aware of Srila Prabhupada's books. But as we go through this model Srila Prabhupada has put forth, and our eminent acharyas have taken it and presented to us, actually Krishna looks even better when it looked through the eyes of this beautiful acharyas. So that's the reason why they say that once we start hearing Srimad Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita, it becomes even sweeter and sweeter and sweeter, because it is being beautifully sweetened by some pure devotees of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita and the kind of purports he has written has the power to really change people, and it has. So these discussions can go on and on. So it's good to be connected, and that will let you come back. And we're not fixed, and nothing which happens in our life is fixed. We go through trials and tribulations, but these wonderful sangha and the books and everything will get us back and align us. Whenever we have wheel alignment, you go to a mechanic to align your wheel so that all the four go in the same direction. And sometimes with wear and tear, with these modes of nature, it misaligns. That's where these books, Guru Sadhu Shastra, helps and get us aligned in our lives. Any other comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, Lord Sri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
So, Prabhuji, so when we do action, let's say, we are offering results to Krishna, but we are kind of, acting upon to please the Lord, right? And this can potentially be there's going to be some kind of passion involved, right? Because it's some activity we need to perform with passion, but not necessarily for our benefits, for Krishna's pleasure. So if one has that consciousness and is acting in the mode of passion, so is that considered to be okay, Prabhuji?
Yes. So the kings, right? Thank you, bro. Very good, very pertinent question, in the sense that the kings in the 10th, 11th, 12th century in India, if you see, these kings were very passionate. They were attacked from different people at different times of the cause, and they used to, and their kingdom, the head of the kingdom used to be the lordships, whether it is in Orissa it was Lord Jagannath, or in South it was Balaji, or wherever. So whatever they end up getting, whenever they fight the battle, so whatever they get it, they don't enjoy it. They put everything in the and they were protecting the citizens, and because the nature of the material nature at that time was so and so. So now here, if we not passionate enough in our job, then job will be gone. And here, when there is no job, there's very difficult to survive. So, and to be very frank, Krishna consciousness does affect our people. See, we have not transcended to that degree. It is not the time where, you know, so we have to live in a society, we have to live in a Krishna conscious society, and we have to be passionate about our job. That's why Krishna says, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. We have to apply the Vyavasayatmika Buddhi in the right sense, not hurting others, not cunning, kutaniti and all. We have to do our job passionately with deep enthusiasm, interest, without politics, without hampering anybody else's or taking the bread away from somebody else. As long as we have that level of consciousness and we passionate, there is ample scope for success. And whatever outcome we end up doing, if we offer it to the Lord based on our capacity, there's nothing like that for a person who is, say, for example, he's making 50K. If $1,000 is enough, and if a person making $100,000, if he's not giving $2,000 proportionately, so it's all about the capacity. So you know, there is a devotee who used to be in our temple who is a resident. He says most of the time the giving back or charitable work is often done by people with less income. So the heart or our ability of consciousness is important, and that makes us very happy in the sense that if the consciousness is right, there is happiness. Because when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is happy in your mind, you are also happy. So to answer your question in a way, we have to be passionate in our work. We have to give 100%, and whatever we can in terms of devoting that much to the cause of the temple or books or deities or whatever it is, which is fostering in your attachment. So when you start giving, you know, there was a teacher, he wanted to start a class. There's Bhakti Sastri, Bhakti Vaibhav classes going on by our ISKCON top brahmacharis. They insist on a 2,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees fees, because if you end up giving fees, you will stick to that class and you end up staying connected. So whenever you're giving that sense of donation, you want that your donation, your charity is used for the service of the Lord, and that gets you connected. So the chariot, Krishna has everything. Lakshmi is really massaging his feet. So there is no need for your this thing. But when you give, it is actually a benefit for yourself, because you stay connected, and that connection gets you there. Okay, Sunday I have donated. How have they done the Sunday Prasad feast? Let me go, not check out the Prasad feast, but let me see how I'm helping in the system. So that relationship, you know, that relationship with the Supreme gets bound by your contribution, which you have arrived after working passionately. I don't know if they answered your question, but I thought
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
just
yeah, Prabhuji. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
thank you,
Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Prabhu, for contributing to the discussion. This is a discussion. Bhagavad Gita is a FAQ, frequently asked question. Arjuna had two questions, Krishna answered. So it's always good to be in the, we are not perfect. We learn from your techniques. So if you have any techniques which you have uh, listened from Srila Prabhupada's purports today or the Krishna's message, you can share, we can learn. Any other comments? We can end here, Prabhu. You can take it away and conclude the class.
Hare Krishna. I think Sameshwar Prabhu is in-person Bhakti Vriksha.
Oh,
He
okay.
has assigned me.
Of course.
He has,
Yeah.
he
Prabhuji,
has
you can.
assigned me as the host. So if anyone has any question or would like to share their realization or a comment, we have 5 minutes. We could do that. If not, we bring it to a close. Okay, Prabhu. Thank you very much for a wonderful class. Let us offer our obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatarubhescha kripa sindhubhya eva cha
Vacha
patitanam
Patitanam
pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo
vaishnavebhyo
Abhi.
Namo
namo
Namo.
namo. Vaishnav Vrinda
Govinda
ki
ki
jai.
jai.
Yeah.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki
Yeah.
jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada
Prabhupada ki
Yeah.
jai.
jai.
Gau Premanandi Hari
Hari Hari.
Bol.
Hari.
Hari.
Thank you, Hemajaganath Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
much,
Prabhuji.
everyone.
Wonderful class. Thank you, Hare
Hari.
Krishna.